Okay, I'm reloaded.
What's going on, NBA fanatics? This is your friendly neighborhood Memphis Grizzlies homer, Memphis X, and I talk hoops. This video, we are going to be concentrating on the draft. Less than a week to go for the draft, and today is the Memphis Grizzlies draft blueprint. But first, every hero needs their theme music.
KeyAno.
Grizz gang, go hard. Baddest in the game, we be on one. I talk hoops, so secure. All up on the court, but we gon' score. Memphis bringing heat straight from Tennessee. Demarest back in let's go.
So as everybody is getting excited for the NBA draft that is coming up on Thursday, I wanted to take a look at what I think the Grizzlies draft strategy should be and some players they might look to pick. I know I've been having the ideal draft thing, but I wanted to just concentrate. I'm going to try to do this on a few teams, but of course, I'm a Memphis Grizzlies homer, so I start with Memphis. So we'll start with what assets do the Grizz have in this draft? And as everybody who's a real fan knows, the Grizzlies have the 22nd pick, the 29th pick, and the 47th pick. Now, we should have the 11th pick, the 22nd pick, and the 29th pick, but the Los Angeles Lakers are some hoes, so we'll just have to leave that alone. But we have 3 picks, 2 in the first, 1 in the second. And for a team in the Grizzlies position, I think this is a good enough haul from, draft-wise as far as what we need or being able to get something that we need to add to the rotation, if not this season, in the upcoming seasons. So, what are we looking at? To me, I think the Grizzlies have 3 big needs. And the 3 big needs are a backup point guard, a replica Jaren Jackson Jr., and more wings. Now, of course, everybody knows I'm coming from the fan point of view, so I don't know what the Grizzlies front office plans are with Tyus Jones. My preference would be to sign him to a 4-year deal, extend him before the draft, and just sign him to 4 more years, and just forget about, not have to worry about the backup point guard position for 4 more years, and it'll be just a headache that you don't have to think about. And if you sign him to the right contract, you can always trade him if need be. Now, Tyus Jones is not going to lose value. He's always going to have the value of a backup point guard, and there's always going to be a team that's in need of a backup point guard or a pseudo-starter at point guard. But that would be my preference. So I will be working from the assumption that the Grizzlies are not going to bring him back, though. So who are some of the people that can come in this draft and probably play backup point guard for the Grizzlies? You have Dyson Daniels, Jalen Williams from Santa Clara, Kennedy Chandler from UT, and my favorite, of course, Dalen Terry from the University of Arizona. So those are the 4 choices. Now, I expect that at least 2 of those guys will be available. I don't expect Dyson Daniels to even be close to that. I think he's going to go in the top 10. So the Grizzlies would have to trade up if he is their preferred target. And I don't know what a trade up would look like. My guess is a trade up would cost the Grizzlies either DeAnthony Melton or Dillon Brooks. And I don't think the Grizzlies are going to deal Dillon Brooks, even though most fans think that they are. I don't think that they are. So DeAnthony Melton, maybe a future pick, plus the 22nd or the 29th pick to move up to the 10th, 11th range, still might not be high enough to get Dyson Daniels, but it might be high enough to ensure that you do get one of the guys that you really want. Like I said, this draft is kind of flat from 8 to about 35, 40. And you really don't know exactly what's going to happen, which order these players are going to go with. If you told me, a week from now that Jalen Williams was a lottery pick and went 14 to Cleveland Cavaliers, I wouldn't argue with it. I wouldn't doubt it. It wouldn't surprise me. If you told me Dallin Terry went 14, it wouldn't surprise me. If you told me Dyson Daniels fell to 14, it wouldn't surprise me. This is how crazy this draft is. So my thing as far as backup point guard, my choice, you guys know, is Dallin Terry, somebody who can play the backup point guard role, who has a history of being protective of the ball, not very turnover prone, and he also has the size, length, and defensive tenacity to play alongside Ja Morant or Desmond Bane, either or. So you can reduce the lineup to a 3-guard lineup in the playoffs setting if need be, and you're good to go. Now, the other thing we have to talk about is what is a replica Jaren Jackson Jr.? Now, if you remember this season, the Grizzlies had a lot of adversity when it comes to injuries and COVID and all that kind of stuff. But the one constant and consistent thing in the lineup this season was Jaren Jackson Jr. Jaren Jackson Jr. was relatively healthy coming off his surgery, and it was a great thing. And he was the base of the defense. So, how do we get a replica Jaren Jackson Jr., and what exactly is a replica Jaren Jackson Jr.? Well, Jaren Jackson is a floor spacer, a rim protector, and he's able to play power forward and center, and he's able to drop and switch. He's a bad boy. So you're not going to be able to find a Jaren Jackson Jr. This is like the difference between ordering on Amazon and ordering on Wish. You're not going to get that high quality Jaren Jackson Jr. with the Wish, budget that we have with the 22nd and 29th pick. So we're looking more into guys maybe that we can trade up into the end of the lottery and target guys like Jalen Duren, Mark Williams. Those are probably the only two guys that we would have to trade up for. Maybe a sneaky little Jaren Jackson replica would be Tari Eason. He's not as big as Jaren Jackson Jr., but he's plenty big enough to play small ball 5. He's got the athleticism to switch. He's got enough shot that he can hit, standstill 3-pointers probably. And he's got the length and athleticism to probably be able to play some drop in certain situations, even though that's probably not his primary or preferred role in the NBA. But he's a big guy. He's got center length. He's 6'8", 6'9". So he can be the replica Jaren Jackson. Now, right now, like if you go to Tankathon, he's mocked at 18, which would take just a slight move up from the Grizzlies to maybe 17, 16, wherever, to go up and grab him. And the thing about him is he can play with or without Jaren Jackson. You got guys like Mark Williams and Jalen Duren. They are primarily 5s only. Tari Eason is a situational 5, so he can play without Jaren Jackson. He can guard 5s in a lineup with Jaren Jackson and allow Jaren Jackson to have his same role, because one of the brilliant attributes of Tari Eason is his strength. Other players say he's one of the strongest players that was in college basketball this season. He plays hard. He's got the length. He's got the athleticism. He's got the defensive tenacity. He's got the defensive playmaking, as he was a good shot blocker, steals guy. So the only thing is a matter of can he hold up without fouling? And can he create enough offense to make himself playable in high leverage situations? Now, the other thing, and I think this is the perfect draft for this, and this is why I always love this draft for the Grizzlies, more wings. Now, in this draft, you have your pick of wings. I mean, you can even qualify Dalen Terry and Dyson Daniels, who we talked about in the point guard section, as wings because they have wing size. But you also have Usman Jing, Malachi Branham, Jalen Williams from Santa Clara, who can also pinch hit as a point guard sometimes if you need that backup point guard role. Tari Eason, who I mentioned in the replica Jaren section. Marjan Beauchamp. Blake Wesley, who's maybe more guardish than wingish. Nikola Jovic. Jake LaRavia, Kendall Brown, Wendell Moore, Bryce McGowan's, as you can see, Peyton Watson, Max Christie, Trevor Keels, Caleb Houston. As you can see, you have a long list of wings. And if anything, if nothing else, if the Grizzlies just come out of this holding their 22nd and 29th pick and just pick 2 wings, whichever ones that fall to them, I think that'll be a success if they were able to, select the wings that they wanted. That would be a success. That would give them a lot of roster flexibility going forward because, you can always pick up a backup center. Xavier can play backup center in a pinch, especially during the regular season. He's perfectly fine. We have Steven Adams for at least another year if they don't trade him. So, really, there's not much we need. We just need somebody to replace. If they're going to let Tyus and Kyle Anderson go, we just need somebody to replace them. And that's the reason why I like Dalen Terry, Dyson Daniels, and Jalen Williams from Santa Clara so much, because those guys have the size to be able to replace both of them with one player. You see what I mean? You can get both. They can play backup point guard, and they can move to small forward. And with Dyson Daniels, he can probably play some power forward in small ball lineups. But either way, it would allow Brandon Clark to move from his position from last year where he was playing mostly backup 5, and he can play his natural position of power forward, and, Jaren can play some more backup 5. So, what would I like to see happen for the Grizzlies on Thursday? I would like for them to come up with one of these big pseudo point guards, either Dyson Daniels, Jalen Williams from Santa Clara, or Dalen Terry. I really wouldn't care which one. My preference is for Terry because he just seems like a Grizzlies type player as far as his flair and his love for the game that seems on display. But I really wouldn't mind. If they traded up for Dyson Daniels, I'd be excited as hell. Also, I would like for them to get a bigger power wing so, Dylan Brooks isn't the only option the Grizzlies have against other power wings, because next season in the playoffs, you're gonna have to go get. You might face Luka, Kawhi, Paul George, Devin Booker. There's a lot of power wings that you might face, and you don't really want to be stuck out there with Dylan Brooks in foul trouble and trying to stop them with undersized DeAnthony Melton or underfed Zaire Williams. You want to have another option. That's why I really like Tari Eason. As I said, even as a replica Jaren Jackson, he can play the wing. He can cover wings. He can cover guys like Luka Doncic, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, those types of guys. And also, in a pinch, play the backup 5. But even if he's playing a backup 5 in a switching system, let's say he's playing the backup 5 alongside Brandon Clark, that gives you 2 backup bigs that can switch and be able to stay with even the power wings and the small guys collectively, while also providing you rim protection and some floor spacing. So that's my preference. Now, I know you're saying, well, the only guy you want is Tari Eason. If we came out of this draft with just Tari Eason it would be a win. If we came out of this draft with just Dyson Daniels, it would be a win. If we came out of this draft with just Dalen Terry, it would be a win. So everything else after that, to me, is gravy. Now, I will not forget to mention my other replica, Jaren Jackson, Walker Kessler. And that's a guy, like I told you in the last video, he's a 20 to 25-minute center that Mike can't close games, but in a pinch, like if Jaren was in foul trouble, he can play alongside Brandon Clark off the bench and provide most of the stuff that Jaren can, except for, being able to take people off the dribble and, being able to switch out there on the perimeter like a wing like Jaren does. But this is why it's a replica Jaren. You're not getting the real thing, not what the picks the Grizzlies have. So let me know what you would want the Grizzlies to do during the 2022 draft this Thursday. How would you like them to approach it? What players do you like? What players do you want them to target? Do you want them to even draft anybody? Do you prefer them to trade the picks for veteran help? Because, if you've been on Twitter, things have escalated between the Warriors and the Grizzlies already. So we got to be ready for war next year because they are going to be ready for war. They have an endless war chest, and we are Memphis. So subscribe to my channel, hit that bell for notification, like this video, and share it with other people who like the NBA and the NBA draft. Peace.